Yo, what up? It's Beverly Ann here to talk to you today about workflow and more specifically starting templates. When you feel inspired, you really want to be able to jump in and just pump out music as fast as you can. You don't want to be messing with organization stuff and adding effects and finding the right instruments. You just want to jump straight into it head first and begin recording. So today I'm going to show you guys how you can do that and maximize your creative time. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the video. One of the first things you're going to notice when opening up FL Studio under a basic template is that it's very bare bones and there's not a lot of labeling. Here we can see the playlist section where you would enter the individual parts of an arrangement or a song. So this might be kick, snare, hi-hat, and some chords. And again, they're not labeled or anything like that. Next, we have our channel rack, which is just where you would click and drag instruments. We have a kick, a clap, a hi-hat, and a snare. These numbers on the left hand side here correlate to where they're being sent to in the mix, which you can find here. For example, we would have in our channel rack 1, 2, 3, and 4. This would be 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's all well and good, but you can see here in the channel rack, it's not called kick, it's not called clap, there's no color coding. So at a glance, it's really hard to know what it is that you're working on. Now I'll go ahead and show you guys an example of a template that I set up the other day. First thing we're going to look at is the playlist, and already off the bat you can see things are colored and labeled appropriately and to my personal preference. Now on the far left hand side you're going to notice that we have our patterns, and these two are already preloaded and ready to go. So if I wanted to add drums into the playlist for 16 bars, all I would have to do is click here on drums and then chuck them across here, and then I can go control and just paste them across like so. Now here in the channel rack we can see I have a bunch of instruments or plugins that I've already loaded. These are sounds that I find myself using often, like on a day-to-day basis, and they're already labeled, colored, and ready to go, which saves me an enormous amount of time. They're also all being sent to the mixer as shown down here on the left, and you may have noticed that there are some numbers missing, and I can show you exactly why that is here. In the mixer we're following the same theme. All instruments are labeled and colored the same as they are in the channel rack as shown above, and those missing channels 10 through to 12 are actually buses or sends for the drums. Essentially what this means is they are channels dedicated to effects like reverb and delay. These reverbs differ slightly, going from a smaller sounding room to a larger sounding room, and on top of that they also have EQ loaded into the channels. Now this is also the same for the synths we have loaded. They're all going through a bus or send to an external effects channel with different reverbs and delays. The effects channels have their own EQ and respective effect pre-loaded in and all ready to go. And as for these reverbs and the EQs themselves, they are actually saved on the left hand side as seen here. So if I wanted to go ahead and load a low and high pass filter to one of these channels, I can just click and drag, let go, and there you have it. Now I'm going to show you guys a step-by-step process on how you can set up your own template to however which way you'd like. Now to begin, we're just going to open a basic template like so, which will be under minimal and then basic, and we can go ahead and save that as a template. Now the file location of your templates will be specific to your setup and how you've saved FL on your system, but it will look something a little like this. We can go ahead and name that template whatever we'd like and hit save. And all you have to do now is reopen FL Studio, go file, new from template, and it will be right there. First thing you want to do is go ahead and grab some sounds that you really like, things that you find yourself using a lot. For instance, I myself really like using shakers, so I might go down here to drums, find myself a shaker. I quite like that one, and let's just chuck that in, click and drag, and then we have ourselves a shaker. Now it's important to remember that as I chucked it in, you'll notice that it is no longer assigned to the mixer. Now all you have to do is hover over this area here, scroll up to number 5 for example, and there you have it. Another instrument is now in your mixer under channel 5. You can also rename any instrument by holding shift and left clicking on it. To change the color, it's the exact same thing. Simply shift click and then select this big button and select the color you'd like. And at this point, it's all personal preference. Go ahead and add those instruments that you think you're going to use on a day-to-day basis, making sure to add them to the mixer using the scroll function as shown before, and make sure that you're labeling them and coloring them as you see fit. Next thing we're going to do is take a look at the playlist. We're going to leave one space at the top up here, so where track 1 is present, and we're just going to go through starting at track number 2 and labeling everything as we need to. So it'll be track 2 would be kick, clap, hat, snare, shaker, etc. And we'll go ahead and name and color those as well. So here it's the exact same thing in the playlist as it was in the channel rack, going through and shift clicking to name and color the parts of the playlist. Here you can see the track labeled drums groups, which would contain all the drums in one track. This is really good for quickly creating drum loops because you can see where each drum or beat sits within one piano roll. Later on, you'll want to separate the tracks by each drum, giving them their own track in the playlist for you to play around with. And this is how it's done. Then we can start getting the other tracks ready by coloring and labeling them, getting them ready to go. And now we're ready to set up the final stage, which is the mixer. And finally, in the mixer, follow the steps we've been doing so far, labeling them using the channel rack to make sure you're making no mistakes in terms of the channels that they're in. You can go ahead and also highlight all of the drums or all members of the same instrument family, hit F2, press the color, and bam, nice and quick. Now it's just rinse and repeat for the rest of the channels. And now it's time to work on the reverb channels. We can grab insert 10 for example and add a reverb to the channel. We then pick from one of the presets. I'm going to pick a small reverb and reduce the dry volume, leaving only the reverb sound in the channel. Going to go ahead and rename that as we have been already. And then we're going to do the same for another channel, number 11 in this case, and add a larger reverb. So we have two different reverbs to choose from and we can blend the two together. We can then go ahead and highlight both of them using Control like we did before, hit F2 and color them as we need to. Now to add these to the channel, simply click and drag, go down to where you want to send them like here, hold shift and left click and do the same for this channel, and you can see that each channel is being sent to that reverb. Now while we're here, we may as well add an EQ to the reverb channel. We can go ahead and select from one of the presets, and then we can just click and drag that over, removing all the low end. We can then go ahead and rename that reverb and save it as a preset, simply by clicking here and then saving it as however you would like. You will then find the preset under this section here, and you can just simply click and drag the preset onto whatever channel you please. Now at this point, it's all up to you. You can go ahead and add further instruments or effect channels or whatever, and you can also go ahead and add an EQ and compression with all the settings set to default on every channel, so it's all ready to go at a moment's notice. After you're done adding everything, go ahead and hit save, and you can go ahead and open up a new project using this template. Just be sure you're not loading the template save file under your recent projects list, or you will override the save file. Well, that about wraps it up for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it and you learned something. I do really encourage you guys to use these templates because it's going to save you an enormous amount of time. No one wants to be fiddling with stuff when they have an idea and they just want to get it down. You just want to jump straight in there and punch in the music. With that being said, if you guys have any questions for me, please leave a comment down below. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Until next time, have a good one.